Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective.
Good morning. Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. I'm your host, Ray Flowers. You can follow me on Twitter, X, on Instagram, on Threads, at all those places at the Ray Flowers. Thanks for joining me here today on the free show powered by FG, as you just heard. Fantasy Sports Daily is Monday through Friday here in a variety of places for you to watch. Yes, watch and listen to the show. Let's go through them. You probably know it now. You can type in Fantasy Sports Daily to your podcast network and find us there. You can go to FantasyGuru.com and click the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page. Find the show there. You can go to Twitter.com/FantasyGuru site. Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ, on YouTube, YouTube.com/@Elite Network. Any of those three places, you can watch the show live. You can watch the show on demand. If you're watching live, you can leave comments and questions that we can address throughout the show. And hopefully you'll enjoy this show. You'll enjoy the last show. And you'll enjoy all the shows moving forward. Tell a friend. Get signed up with the product over at FantasyGuru.com. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. And enjoy this free offering here in the mornings. Again, I'm Ray Flowers. I'm with you today. On Thursday, we'll also be joined by Tyler Buecher today. He'll be joining us in about half an hour or so. Tyler Buecher, let's see here. We're going to talk about sorry, I was looking at something else. We got best ball discussion because Tyler's our best ball guy over at FantasyGuru.com. So we're going to talk about best ball. We're going to have some rules to follow, not to follow. He's gotten articles on that, so we'll talk a little bit about that. The elite quarterback position. We talked with Tyler about the elite tight end position on the show. I don't think we did elite quarterback. I'll have to ask him. Maybe I did this wrong. I don't think we did. I think it was elite tight end. We'll talk about elite quarterback regardless. And then also some player news. Patrick Mahomes, Saquon Barkley, Dallas Goedert, Brenton Strange, and Emeka Egbuka will be guys that we talk about with Tyler Buecher at FantasyGuru.com. Before that, we got to talk pitching. And just stupendous work last night across the land. I mean, it seemed like everyone threw a quality start. Did everyone throw a quality start last night? Every pitcher in baseball? Not quite, but kind of, sort of. Pretty remarkable stuff. So we'll talk about that here in a little bit. We'll also talk about, let's just name the guys. Boyd, Rasmussen, deGrom, Kirby, Misiorowski, Scherzer return. Max Scherzer's back in our lives. What's going on with Gavin, Williams, Clarke, Schmidt, and then some offensive performers. The big name guy, just touching on them because we haven't really discussed these big name guys on the show hardly at all other than Juan Soto. Juan Soto, Elly De La Cruz, Bobby Witt, Rafael Devers. Well, we talked about him. Joe Adell, Zach Neto, and Luis Robert. Last night, there was a lot of great pitching, and I've seen a lot of comments in Discord and on social media about the lack of offense, and it was extreme last night. I mean, what was it? Let's see here. I had it up earlier today. Let me pull it up again. If you look at the pitching last night, if I click on the right link, where we got it? There we go. It was remarkable. The following pitchers allowed 0 or 1 run last night, 0 or 1, while going at least 5 innings. Nick Pivetta, Jacob deGrom, Jacob Lopez, Max Fried, Joe Ryan, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Matt Boyd, Jacob Misiorowski, Drew Rasmussen, Zach Wheeler, George Kirby, Colton Gordon. And this is Mackenzie Gore allowed 2, but 0 earned. Clay Holmes. I mean, this is half the guys that pitched last night through 5 innings with no runs or 1. It was absolutely remarkable. And if you look at the state of offense, the general perception is the offense is way down this year. Well, is it? Let's look at this year compared to last year. Now, last year, things changed with the new rules and everything, but it's the same rules we're playing with this year, so let's look at that. This year, the batting average is up 2 points. It's not down, it's up 2 points. The on-base percentage is up 4 points from last year. The slugging percentage is down 1 point, and the isolated power mark is down 3 points. So it's almost identical. Everything's up, 2 or 3 point percentage, 2 or 3 points, not percentage points, 2 or 3 points. It's almost identical. So there really hasn't been an overall change drastically from the levels of offense that we saw last season, which is pretty surprising to some people, I would assume, especially after a night last night. So don't get too carried away with that line of thought. But again, last night was a particularly banging effort. And let's start out talking about Matthew Boyd, who didn't walk anybody, struck out only 3, but allowed just 3 hits over 6 shutout innings against the Cardinals. He's been great this season. We've talked about him on the show, written about him over at FG. Remember, by the way, if you click that subscribe tab in the top right corner, you get signed up at FantasyGuru.com with us. The baseball package is one. So right now you get signed up, you get DFS, wagering, and seasonal. It's all one package. So literally everything we do for baseball, you get it right now. It's all one price. It's none of the differential packages and all. Just one price. Everything we do at fantasyguru.com. And we talked a lot about Matthew Boyd and the concerns about Matthew Boyd. How long is this going to last? How many starts is he going to make? How many innings is he going to throw? Then we had the shoulder issue last time he started before yesterday, and it was like, well, they're saying he's okay, but well, he looked great yesterday. No lingering effects whatsoever from the shoulder issue, so I guess it was exactly what the Cubs told us. Not a big deal. Still the same questions with him: age, workload, what's it going to look like in the second half. But he's been just a hit. He's been a victory. He's been a win to this point. If you were to get hurt tomorrow, you paid off your investment in Matthew Boyd. He's been great. Now, the Cubs need him to continue doing this, right? They've welcomed back Shota Imanaga today, which is a huge addition and return to the staff. Ben Brown has been demoted, as we prognosticated earlier this week would occur after his rough outing last time. But they desperately need Matthew Boyd to continue to take the ball and to give them 6 solid innings each time out. He is lined up right now for 2 starts next week at home against the Guardians and the Cardinals. Just face the Cardinals, so a little bit of familiarity there with him. But setting up for a 2-start week next week, and at this point, I don't know why you wouldn't be starting him if that's the case. Drew Rasmussen shut the Royals out over 5 innings with 5 strikeouts, gave up 2 walks and a couple of hits. And yesterday I saw some people commenting that he threw 62 pitches and they pulled him. What's wrong? I don't think anything's wrong. I think that the Rays have a plan, they have a system in place, and they have players to execute that plan in that system. And as we've discussed here on the show with Zach Littell and Drew Rasmussen in particular, these guys have done a remarkable job going 6 innings on many occasions, despite never throwing 100 pitches and rarely throwing 90 pitches. Like, they just don't let this team, these guys, those 2 in particular, go that deep into games. They also don't like to have Rasmussen and Littell really face an opponent 3 times. So there are just not that many games that they're going to go deep into. The pitch count stays down, and they don't want him facing it multiple times. I don't think Rasmussen got pulled. I didn't see any injury reports with him. I don't think he got pulled for any reason other than he went to the lineup twice and they wanted to get him out of there. I could be wrong. We'll see. We'll follow the reports of Rasmussen, who, by the way, he's gone 6-1 his last 7 decisions, and his ERA is 2.5 on the year. He's been fantastic. Same scenario here with him, workload concerns because of some injuries in the past and all of that, but he has been fabulous, was terrific yesterday. I don't think, again, there was an injury, but keep an eye on it because the 62 pitches is a very low mark for a guy who threw 5 shutout innings. So just something to keep an eye on, but as of now, I think we're doing okay. Tony W. says that, hey, Ray, I've heard more from you this week than my wife in 27 years. You are the marathon man. Keep up the great work. You have a great following out here in fantasy baseball. Thank you, said Tony. Tony, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a busy week. Most weeks have been really busy, though. It's all tight now. I'm here with you guys 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. On Wednesdays, I'm not here because I'm with Jeff Manns on the Elite Sports Show from 3 to 6 Eastern, so I'm with Jeff for 3 hours there. Normally, I've been on with Justin Fenceman on the Elite Sports Game Time Show at night. We have 2 hours, 8 to 10 Eastern. This week, we shifted to the morning, so I'm on from 9 to 11. I'll be on again 9 to 11 Eastern time tomorrow morning as well. One more time of doing that before we go back to our regular time. Just to let you all know, too, that show, the Game Time Show, ends next week. So if you want to hear a lot of Ray Flowers, next week will be the last week to have all these tons of shows. I'll still be doing the show with Jeff every Wednesday. I'll still be doing this show for 4 days a week. So still be doing at least 5 days a week of this stuff. And you never know how things are going to change in football. But the Elite Sports Game Time Show, as it happens every year, basically ends when July starts. Got a couple extra days this year. Appreciate that. Justin B said, we missed you yesterday in wagering community, Ray. It was really interesting, Justin, and I appreciate the kind words. Thank you. I looked at the slate yesterday, and here's actually my thought process. I looked at the slate yesterday, and I went away, and I came back and looked at the slate yesterday, and I went away, and I came back and looked at the slate. So what I basically did is I looked at the slate, didn't see anything, went and grabbed a sandwich, came back, didn't see anything, wrote a baseball article, came back and didn't see anything. So on the third pass through, I just didn't see anything I really liked. And I didn't want to put bets out just to put bets out. We talk about this on the show and over at the site. Nothing spoke to me. And in lieu of just throwing something out there to have something out there, like I had a money line parlay, which would have hit. I probably should put that out. But it was Dodgers and Rangers. I just didn't So I didn't put any bets out. And I apologize. It wasn't like I didn't look or try. It wasn't like I was lazy. I just didn't find anything that spoke to me. And I'm a big believer in, we don't have to bet every day. I'm a big believer in let's just not throw something out there to throw something out there. So that's just a little explanation. But I'll be back at it today, Justin. So appreciate you following me here and following us at fantasyguru.com. Speaking of the Rangers, Jacob deGrom no-hit the Orioles for 7 innings before giving up a single in the 8th inning. I mean, deGrom has been spectacular. I said all preseason, as I said every preseason for the last 5 years, I think, 4 years at least. I'm not drafting Jacob deGrom, go for it. Every year, people have drafted Jacob deGrom and overpaid. Maybe this year they didn't. Still, in retrospect, the price that was being paid for Jacob deGrom on draft day was stupid. Sorry, it was just stupid. Just because it's working out doesn't absolve people that drafted him at that point from making a stupid decision. Because it was a stupid decision. He has paid it off, though, and he's just like, Boyd, he could get hurt tomorrow, and you've won. I mean, he's 8-2. He's got a 2.1 ERA. He's throwing 97 miles an hour. I mean, he's just been spectacular. And we know that deGrom, when healthy, we all figured, even me, that when deGrom was healthy, he was going to be terrific, right? That was never, my analysis was never, oh, Jacob deGrom, he's not going to be any good. No, it was never the analysis. The analysis was, what's the workload going to look like? And let's be clear about this now. After the effort yesterday, Jacob deGrom is at 95 pitches, putting him on pace for about 190 innings. The last time he threw 190 innings was 2019. 2019 also happens to be the last time he threw 100 innings. He's at a 6-year high in innings pitched right now, and we're not even at the All-Star break. We're halfway through the year, and he's at a 6-year high in innings pitched. Good luck staying healthy. I mean, I just, it's not 1 year. It's 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. 5 straight years of less than 100 innings pitched. He's almost there already. So again, this is an absolute best case scenario with deGrom. Could he replicate this performance in the second half? If he stays healthy, he could. I just really struggle to think he's going to stay healthy. Maybe I'm wrong, but the die is cast on that one. You're either in or out with him, and you're living with the results. I'm fine with not drafting him in any league. Maybe you're upset that you didn't take him on my advice. Maybe you ignore my advice, and you're loving life. We'll see how the second half goes with Jacob deGrom. George Kirby was somebody that I was asked about in Discord over at fantasyguru.com yesterday. He is also somebody that I wrote about. I was independently, before the question even came up, I was actually thinking about writing about him, so I wrote about him yesterday too. And I basically said, look, if you look at the totality of George Kirby right now, everything's basically the same. The walk rate's up a little bit. That's the only significant change. But even though his walk rate was up a substantial amount for him, a 6% walk rate is still way below the 8.5% walk rate, for the major league average. So he was still totally fine. I said maintain the faith in the article yesterday morning. Yesterday he went out in the evening and threw 6 innings against the Twins and allowed 1 run, and everything's okay now with Kirby, I hope. And again, there's more analysis over at fantasyguru.com, but the fact really is that, and I think a lot of you are getting much better at this and have learned over the years, hopefully from my assistance or from your own research, that, sometimes we get misled into thinking things that aren't necessarily true. Like when you start looking at the components of a pitcher, not the results, because the results are varied. When you check and his speed is the same, his velocity is the same, and his strikeout rate's the same, and his walk rate's the same, and his ground ball rate's the same, and his fly ball rate's the same, and his spin rate's the same, and his extension rate's the same. I mean, when you start looking at all the similarities here, what's the reason that we're having struggles if everything's the same? Oftentimes, it's the player's not very good. Kirby's obviously good. Or we're probably talking a sample size thing. And I think that's kind of what we had with George Kirby. So it was great to see him get going again yesterday. Obviously, he missed all that time with the shoulder. And I did write as well that his release point's a little bit lower, which does happen. So I'm not overly concerned by that. It happens when guys get hurt. That's something to keep an eye on too. But it was really nice to see that strong effort yesterday against the Twins. Set to face the Royals on Monday, I think, is his next outing in Seattle. Great place to pitch. Jacob Misiorowski, watch him, smoke him while you got him. Watch him while you can, folks. This kid is wow. He's going up, 4 hits in 16 innings, 3 hits in 16 innings, whatever the hell it is. He threw a pitch 102-4 yesterday. He was routinely hitting 100. His slider's coming in at 95. I mean, this is amazing. Watch it while you can. I hope I'm wrong, and I know I'm not. So that's, some point here in the next couple of years, this arm is flying off. I mean, it's just he's doing things that human beings can't do. He's been spectacular at doing it. The piece that we worried about, his control, has been excellent at the big league level. And when you have that stuff and you can locate it, batters are done. The problem he had going up through the minors was the scouting report and the results. The scouting report said, "Oh, command and control is a problem," and the results said command and control is a problem. Hasn't shown that in 3 outings at the big league level. He too is going to blow past his career high in innings pitched. We talked about that previously. So someone was commenting yesterday about they pulled him at 74 pitches. What the hell? They're going to have to do this, okay? Because again, you've got a young guy you want to build around, and he's throwing 101 miles an hour. Are you going to let this guy double his previous workload high? Just boom? You're not going to do that. You're just not. We've already seen the Brewers in particular do this with Logan Henderson. They called him up. He pitched well over 4 starts, and they basically sent him back down to the minor leagues. They didn't want to overwhelm him with workload. So Misiorowski is going to be great. There's going to be short outings. There might be skipped outings. There might be extra days of rest. But wow, just really wow. Max Scherzer, hey, 3 runs over 5 innings against the Guardians, fine. The good news is that he was averaging about 93 miles an hour on his fastball and hit 95. Last year, he was about 92 miles an hour with his fastball, so he had a little bit extra juice yesterday, which is nice to see. It didn't appear that his thumb was an issue at all. Obviously, we have no idea, how he's feeling today, and is that thumb going to be an issue? Because the thumb has apparently been an issue for months now. He'll face the Yankees next time out, which is not a great matchup, of course. But Scherzer is another one of these guys that I still figure and anticipate having success when he's on the hill. The question is, how many times are you going to take the hill? He's a streaming option in most mixed leagues. Do you want to stream him against the Yankees? No. So unless you're in a very deep league, it's not really, you don't have to run out and get Max Scherzer. But just keep an eye on him. Put him on the watch list, especially if he has a good outing against the Yankees. Everyone's opinion will change at that point. Gavin Williams allowed 4 runs over 5 1/3 innings. Gavin Williams was in the Breakout Pitcher of the Year article. Gavin Williams had some really nice starts this season. Gavin Williams also failing to take the next step, and that's disappointing. He's been effective here, right? He's got 3 quality starts the last 6 times out, and he's been okay, but he's almost got a 1-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio his last 6 starts, and that just can never work. Just can't work. And even a 2-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio is really hard to work, and he's basically 1-to-1. Strikeout rate in that time, he's got 23 strikeouts his last 32 innings. Like, this guy, his velocity and stuff is better than the results. So, unlike though George Kirby, in the case of Gavin Williams, I just don't know if we're there. In the case of Kirby, we're there. It's just a question of all the pieces coming together. Williams has got the pieces, but they seem much further apart, right? There are some times where he's got his fastball going, then it's his off-speed stuff that is going. Some days he can't control the strike zone. Some days he does control the strike zone. He's facing the Cubs and the Tigers next week. Love to start him in a 2-start week, but the Cubs and the Tigers, with those lefty hitters with the Tigers and the way the Cubs, I have Gavin Williams in multiple leagues. I'm sure a lot of you do too. We're sitting here right now. I'm very reluctant to consider him as a starter next week. Clarke Schmidt, just as an update here, Clarke Schmidt is going to have his next start pushed back an extra day. They said he didn't quite rebound after his last start the way they hoped. Keep an eye on this because, again, this happens all the time and it's not a big deal. But if he doesn't look good next time out, the results are poor, if the velocity's off a little bit, he's been really good as we anticipate. He's actually been even better than he's been really good. And we'll see. He's 7 shutout innings against the Orioles, I think, last time, right? So it would be a huge loss to the Yankees if he were to miss time. And, of course, in the fantasy space. But, again, we're just having his next start pushed back. He's not going to go tomorrow. He's going to end up going Saturday against the Athletics. But we'll watch that effort with watchful eye, they say. Angela says, is Jacobs Lopez legit? And I always hear these questions like, what does legit mean to you? Is he somebody's going to have a 2.5 ERA and a 1.1 whip? No. Is legit a guy that you can stream? Is legit a guy that you're looking to pick up and start 15 times in the second half? There needs to be a little bit of context there. What I can say with Jacob Lopez is that he has been better than I anticipated. There's no doubt about that. He doesn't throw very hard. He's like a 91 mile an hour thrower. Lot of I think the sweeper's his pitch, if I'm trying to remember properly. Sweeper slider, yeah, that's what he leans on a lot. He only throws fastball 38% of the time. Fastball velocity is like 90, 91. It's kind of down. It's very low for a guy with a 29% strikeout rate, and that's something to keep in mind here. The strikeout rate feels a little juiced, as the kids say. Let's dive a little deeper here. His swinging strike rate of 12.5% is a good mark, but it's not 29% strikeout rate mark. His 29% CSW is a very good mark, which is indicative of a strikeout rate that he currently possesses. 28% O swings on outside the strike zone. That's kind of middling at best. So the bottom line for me is that he is somebody that's in a nice group right now. The Athletics are going to continue to roll him out there. I think that's fair. You always have to question a little bit when a 27-year-old has thrown 65 innings to the big league level, like, what's going on there. The velocity in his pitch mix would lead me to think that the strikeouts are going to recede. They're going to go down lower. And though he's been much better of late, his work against righties is still 342 on base percentage to righties and a 336 WOBA. So pretty average numbers, which again is not surprising as a left-handed pitcher with moderate stuff. So I think that Lopez, again, he's a streaming option for me in mixed leagues, better than I anticipated. I'm not a believer in the ERA of 3.5 right now. You look at the WHIP, it's 1.3. So if those strikeouts pull back as anticipated, he's a streaming option, Angela, I think is the general answer to the question. All right, let's talk some offensive players. Bobby Witt went 1-4 with the double last night. Just checking on some of these guys because it's like, you got them and you're not trading them, and someone comes with an offer and you don't care, you don't even listen. You've got Bobby Witt, he's going to be a star. He's been a star. He'll be fine. 80 games in, let's double it up and give him 160 games played. 20 home runs. He had 30 the last 2 years. 80 RBIs. His career low is 80 RBIs. He's been over 95 the last 2 years. 42 runs scored. His career low is 92, but again, he's averaged about 110 the last 2 years. All those numbers are down. Steals, he's got 21 steals, so he's on pace to better the 31 he stole last year, but come way short of the 49 he stole the last couple of years. The last 2 years, about 40 steals. That's about his current pace. So the counting category numbers are down a bit. Steals are about where we expected them to be. And not that a 282 batting average is bad at all, but this guy hit 332 last year. So that's a huge drop. So the bottom line is his first half has been word of the week, right? What is it? It's fine. First half has been fine. Have you lost fantasy matchups because of him? Are you not going to win this year because of him? No, he's been fine. He's been absolutely fine. He's on pace to go 20-40, and it doesn't even feel like he's been great, right? He's fine. The batting average piece, the strikeout rate is up just a tick, just a little tiny bit there. He's driving the ball a little bit less. His isolated power mark is down about 50 points. That's a significant drop. Has he changed his approach appreciably? Well, again, the strikeout rate's up 3%. It's still 18%. He doesn't strike out. His launch angle is exactly the same to the decimal, exactly the same as it was last year at 15%. His exit velocity is up a little bit. His hard hit rate is up a little bit. His barrel rate is down a little bit. So again, on total, basically the same as last year. And if you look at it, his expected batting average last year was 315, and this year it's 306. So again, really similar to what we saw last season, though we have witnessed that 50-point actual drop in his batting average. I think it's fair to look at him and say he's going to hit 295, 300 the rest of the way. I think the outlier was a 332 last season. Bottom line is, across the board, he'll be fine. And there's always a chance he goes nuclear, right? There's not many guys that you can say that about. Nuclear. Elly De La Cruz. Everyone's bashing O'Neal Cruz for his lack of hustle. What about Elly De La Cruz, who continues to be fantastic? His last 30 games, hitting 336 with a 400 on base percentage and a 699 slugging. Elly De La Cruz is legit, and he's so much fun. He's one of my 5 favorite players, which I think a lot of people would say because he's so good. But I just love watching him play. He's smiling. He's energetic. He's a baseball freak. He hustles. He takes the extra base. He does all these things. And oh, by the way, he's on pace to go 30-40. Now, he stole 67 bases last year. So even if he goes 30-40, which would be fantastic, he went 25, almost 70 last year. So, it's like, has he been better than last season? Well, his batting average is up. Strikeout rate is way down. On base percentage is up. Slugging percentage is up. Isolated power is up. Like, he's been better. But it's one of those scenarios where his fantasy value might end up being the same or slightly lessened if he doesn't run more in the second half. Though again, if you told me he's stealing 40 bases this year, I would have said that makes sense. Great player, great performance to date, and I love the fact that a 32% strikeout guy his first 2 years has knocked that number down to 26% this year. Hold on to that, Ellie De La Cruz, and success will continue to follow. Next up, Juan Soto. And Justin Pentzman and I talked about this on Elite Sports, and I've seen it on social media. Like, what's wrong with Juan Soto? Juan Soto, Juan Soto, Juan Soto, Juan Soto. Meanwhile, the Mets are in first place. Juan Soto sucks. Juan Soto went 2 for 4 yesterday. He had a couple more home runs yesterday. And in June, he's hitting .315 with a .485 on-base percentage and a .685 slugging percentage, numbers that 99% of players who've ever lived have never posted for a month. And Soto does it, and you're like, yeah, it's Juan Soto. Juan Soto is a special player. And anyone that complained about his performance in the first half, like, I really don't get it. You didn't think he was going to turn things around? Come on. You know, Juan Soto is fantastic. He's always going to be fantastic. His approach is terrific. You know, having the polar bear with him there, Pete Alonso, is also fantastic. And oh, by the way, he's not a stolen base guy per se, but he's on pace to not only set a career best in steals, he's on pace to go almost 30-20. He's got 19 home runs and 9 steals. Juan Soto, as expected, has been just fine. Bob Melvin said that Rafael Devers could start playing games at first base on the upcoming road trip. Devers has been working out in pregame at first base. I've seen video of this. Whatever happened with the Red Sox, the bottom line is the Giants are considering using him at first base as early as next week. Bryce Eldridge, who is probably their first baseman of the future, the 6'7" power wonder kid who's 21 years old or whatever he is, 20 years old, recently got hurt. I think it was his oblique just his last couple of days. So he's going to miss some time here. So it might. The hope is, from the Giants' perspective, I think, that Eldridge will be up in the second half at some point. Until we get there, maybe Rafael Devers will take over at first base, because the Giants, for all the good things that have happened this year, the Giants have gotten woefully bad production at first base. And it would be nice, too, if Rafael Devers entered 2026 with positional flexibility and not just as a UT. So play first base, Rafael. We really like that. Joe Adell hit a 17th home run of the season last night. 11 of those home runs have come the last 24 games. Now, with Joe Adell, we've been here, done that, all that kind of stuff. I don't know if Joe Adell's on the waiver wire. Again, he's got 11 home runs in 24 games. He's probably not. He batted 5th yesterday. It's the first time he's hit 5th all season long. I don't know if they trade him. I don't know what the Angels are going to do. They trade him. They trade Taylor Ward. I'm impressed by Joe Adell to date. Now, the problem with Adell is he's teased us like this before and then flopped, right? So be cautious with the optimism, but cautious optimism. Let's put those words together. Cautious optimism with Joe Adell. Zach Neto is day-to-day with an MRI after having an MRI, on his shoulder. No structural damage here. He tweaked his shoulder and then made a wild throw and then came out of the game the other night. He hurt himself, I guess, on a stolen base attempt early in the game. So at this point, it's unclear with Neto when he'll be returning to action, but the anticipated return is before an IL stint occurs, so that's good news. Neto, who started the season slowly because he was out with the injury, he missed like the first 20 games. We're at the midway point of the season, and he's on pace to go 20-20. He's only played 61 games. I mean, he's on a 30-30 pace after going 20-30 last year. We'll see if the shoulder's okay. And, if he comes, obviously the shoulder is hugely important to the swing, more so than stealing base. You can slide feet first, be okay with the shoulder. We'll have to watch what his power looks like. And then finally, Luis Robert, just to note him before we talk some football with Tyler Beaker. Luis Robert's day-to-day with hamstring soreness. I don't know, man. The guy's 27 years old. He's a couple years removed from almost going 40-20. He wasn't very good last season. He's been even worse this season. He is on pace to steal 40 bags, which would be a career best and a huge number. I don't know if that's reasonable. I don't really think it is, especially now that we're hearing his hamstrings a little bit tweaked. He strikes out a ton. His batting average, he's hitting 200. What is he hitting? 2-2? Last 173 games since the start of last season. Batting 209. Since the start of last season, he's got a 275 on base percentage. Ooh, so bad. The strikeouts are there. The walk rate is up a little bit, which is we love to see. Exit velocity is just the same as always. Barrel rates, same as always. Hard hit rates, same as always. The launch angle is up. Don't love that. It's up over 20%. career mark about 15%. So I'd like to see that change a little bit. Overall, things look very similar. And what we're basically left to think is at this point, he needs a change. He needs to be on a different team. And I don't know how much this has impacted him. I'm totally, armchair quarterbacking this, but don't you kind of get the sense he wants to be somewhere else, and that if he was somewhere else, things might be different? Got a contract through the end of this season. He then has club options for the next 2 years, so he's not a free agent. So there's that. We'll see with Luis Robert. Really tough. Got a lot of questions about him in Discord. Do I hold on to him? Do I drop him? I'm going to try to hold if I can. I think that's the correct move. But at the same time, I understand why some people in some scenarios would be considering dropping Joe Adell. So again, go to fantasyguru.com, click the subscribe tab in the top right corner if you want to get signed up for the baseball product. It's one single product, DFS, seasonal wagering, all three of them, one price. Send a note, support at fantasyguru.com. Let's talk some football. On Thursdays, we talk some football with Tyler Beaker, our main man over at fantasyguru.com. He's our best ball guy. He does all football, but he's our best ball guy in particular. We'll talk a little bit about that with him at the start. And then we'll dive into some of the news and notes, kind of the guys in the news the last 24, 36 hours, and get his take. They're not hot takes because they're intelligent, thought-out, rational takes. So we'll get some rational takes from Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. How you doing today, Tyler? Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Rational takes. I like that.
Yeah, because, hot take makes it sound like it's off the cuff and there's no analysis given. And I'm not saying you would never give a hot take, but I don't get the sense you give many hot takes. I kind of get the sense that there's some analysis behind most of the stuff you do. So I don't want to rob you of your earned analysis title there, Tyler.
That's fair. 99% of the time, I'd say they're measured takes, well-measured takes.
Okay.
1% every now and then I'm feeling a little frisky. Let's throw out some hot stuff out there.
Let's go. Keep it spicy. Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. By the way, his last name, as you can see there on the screen, is Buecher. Make sure you spell that properly if you're looking him up on Twitter, X at Tyler Beaker, or in Discord. He's answering a bunch of questions this morning in particular. I saw him over there. Tyler, again, you're our best ball guy, so let's start there. You've got a best ball guide within the guide. We've talked to you about best ball before. There's rankings and all this kind of stuff. You recently put an article kind of with some do's and don'ts kind of stuff here for best ball. And one of the comments you made is that if you're drafting anything less than 20 drafts, I would not put limits on anything. What did you mean by that statement?
That's the 1% of me coming out right there. Let's have some fun here. So I think that there's different ways to approach best ball, and you can kind of approach it similar to DFS, where most people are playing with a budget. And if you're playing with a restricted budget or not trying to spend thousands upon thousands of dollars or hours drafting this summer, have some fun with it. That's what the point of fantasy football is, after all, to be a distraction. Have some fun with your best ball drafts. I still recommend reading through all the content that we have over there on the site with respect to roster construction and drafting tactics and things like that. But the point of that comment was more or less not being overly concerned with your player exposure. I know a lot of people like to talk about their portfolios or their percentage they have tethered to a certain player X, player Y. If you're drafting with a finite number of drafts, I'd say 20 or less, don't worry about that. Your natural draft slot is going to vary your pick enough where if you're all in on a guy like Puka Nacua, Malik Neighbors this year is a guy that you think could make that leap to be the wide receiver one this year, go and get him in round one. Doesn't matter if you're taking him 3 to 4 spots ahead of ADP. Go get your guys. That was kind of the center point of that argument, rather than trying to stick to ADP and kind of just play the bland game of spreading out exposure. Go get your guys if you're playing short, because life's short. And if you want to win a lot of money, sometimes you got to take some reaches. Sometimes you got to be a little outside the box. And sometimes that falls into taking stands on players where we may think Saquon Barkley could be a guy set up for injuries or a potential drop in total volume this year based on the 482 touches he had last year, including the postseason. So fade Saquon if you're not interested in him. Go get your Neighbors and your Pukas and be happy.
Tyler, you talk about exposure to players in the article too, and team exposure was one of the headlines there too. Team exposure, duh. 2 guys on the same team, maybe multiple guys on the same team. But you also mentioned differentiating combinations there. Talk us through that mindset and that point.
Yeah, if you do enough drafts, you'll see that there tend to be the same players going at the same spots in most drafts. It's the average draft position. By definition, that's on average where they're going. At the round 1 pick, 1.1 in most drafts is Jamar Chase. At that 2-3 turn, once we circle back through, for those drafters that drafted first, their next picks are likely going to include a possibility of adding T. Higgins if they'd like. So there are a lot of combinations that have started out drafts with those two heavy hitters for Cincinnati. My suggestion is to mix and match the types of players you get. Maybe instead of always going Chase and Higgins, get Chase Brown. Throw him in the mix in case we see some variations and fluctuations with his fantasy scoring relative to Higgins, or we get another injury from Higgins, or something unfolds that way. The point is to differentiate the way you're drafting and not attack every single draft the same way if you're volume drafting, because when you are in the final weeks of these tournaments where it's a better example for Underdog and DraftKings, where you're in these smaller pods of you versus 12 players and you're trying to advance weeks 15, week 16, week 17, based on the way those are structured. You are probably, if the Bengals go nuclear this year, you're likely to share a lot of similarities and overlap between teams that drafted both Chase and Higgins and went with that Bengals stack. But one way for you to differentiate yourself from that smaller group of 12 or however many players it is to mix and match those and have different combinations of players where it's not the Chase and Higgins combo. It could be Chase and Jackson Smith-Njigba, Chase and Chase Brown, like the earlier example. The point is just to get yourself a little bit different, where these contests are so top heavy and where the payouts are, where uniqueness is really rewarded in terms of being able to create a lineup that nobody else has and that nobody else can replicate, giving you a shot at taking home that $2 million top prize that both Underdog and DK are offering this summer.
Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. For more of Tyler's work on everything, including best ball, go to fantasyguru.com. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Hit us up on with an email, support@fantasyguru.com. There's rankings there as well from Tyler. It's not just articles and strategies. There's rankings there as well. When do you update those? You going to update those again, Tyler?
Yeah, I did the Underdog one earlier this week. I'll hit either Drafters or DraftKings another point this week as well.
There you go, folks. Check it out. Now, I admitted at the start of the show, I've done so many shows and talked to you here. I've talked to you on Sirius. I'm hoping that I got this right. I think we talked elite tight end, but not elite quarterback on this show. Am I losing my mind? Have we already talked about elite quarterback on this show?
I don't recall.
Okay, I don't think so. So listeners, if you heard this for a second time, you're just getting 2 times of the good advice. You wrote an article about the elite quarterback approach. And we're hearing a lot of people. Jeff talks about this a lot on his show, Elite Sports, 3 to 6 Eastern, Monday through Friday. And he talked kind of about 5 guys, right? And it's kind of that tier that ends with Jalen Hurts, all the running guys at the top besides Joe Burrow. So is that kind of how you're viewing it? Like there's 5 or 6 guys at the top that are that elite quarterback. And then in what scenarios, setups, et cetera, do you subscribe to the elite quarterback scenario? Because I've said, for me, it's very difficult to go elite tight end and elite quarterback. I don't love the way that build normally turns out. I almost think you have to choose one or the other. That's me. Maybe you see it differently. Walk us through this whole thing with the elite quarterback.
No, you and I are in lockstep with that, where I feel like it's a decision tree of either or, taking the elite quarterback or the elite tight end path, namely because you lose a lot of firepower in these drafts at the running backs and receiver positions, where most formats are a 2 RB, 3 receiver, and a flex setup, where that's a lot of spots to fill. One common tactic that I like to deploy in most of my drafts is race to win the flex, where you're basically trying to beat your opponents in the flex position, and that means taking a lot of running backs and receivers early. Namely receivers, because they score more than their running back counterparts very quickly in full PPR formats and also quickly in half PPR. The elite tight end, elite quarterback approach can also add some ways to stack draft tactics that help you as well. But when you combine the two, I think you're really missing out on the heavy hitters at wide receiver and the depth that's needed there to win the flex, so to speak. So I think choosing one is the best option here. I'll say that it is really going to be contingent on your draft platform. I looked at several different websites that have their ADPs listed already, and it varies so greatly between CBS, ESPN, Yahoo, and even all the best ball platforms as well when we throw those in the mix, where the quarterbacks are going, where the tight ends are going. So make sure you check that out ahead of time before your draft. Enter your draft with a plan, prepare for it, study it, and then execute that plan once you're on the clock. I like the elite quarterback path this year. I like the elite tight end path this year. I think you can make an argument for either one. I would constrict the elite QBs to just the big 4, the guys that have the mobility, because I think mobile quarterbacks offer a much higher floor than their non-mobile QB counterparts. And I wouldn't really throw Burrow in there, despite him dominating the league in terms of passing yardage, pass touchdowns. That's just such a very rare feat for someone to replicate. That said, he's in a great position to do it again, given how poor that defense is, how few resources they've allocated there. And I mean, their entire draft essentially was all defensive players where they just needed to reload there. So I think there's a chance for Burrow to repeat. I'm trying to phrase this the right way. The floor that these mobile quarterbacks offer, when we combine them with their passing productivity, it used to be like the Terrell Pryors and the Tebows where we'd get like one or the other. They're either a rusher or a passer. Mm-hmm. These iterations of today's elite quarterbacks combine the strong passing skill sets with their rushing productivity, where they offer immense floors and ceilings on a weekly level where game script truly does not matter. Well, look at Jalen Hurts, double-digit touchdowns 4 straight seasons. Yep. Josh Allen, you can argue double-digit touchdowns as well. We've seen multiple MVP campaigns from Lamar Jackson. These guys just offer so much productivity. And then you can throw in Jaden Daniels, who I believe it was 22.7 fantasy points per game if we exclude his Week 18 matchup. So anything that we can get above 20 is what the goal is with these mobile QBs, these elite quarterbacks. These are guys that I'm willing to take in the first, usually 3 to 5 rounds, because you're not going to get these guys after round 5. But I think that's a willing place to start. I wouldn't want to go round 2. I've seen some questions in Discord about that. Mm-hmm. If anyone would want to reach that high, and that just seems a bit too early to me. But round 3, the end of round 3 specifically, all the way to round 5 would be where I'd want to take these big 4.
So Tyler does have an article, Elite Quarterback Approach. He also has an article on Elite Tight End Approach. Check it out over at fantasyguru.com. All right, let's talk a little bit about some of the news, guys in the news here of late. And one of the major storylines, because before Joe Burrow doing what Joe Burrow did last year, we had Patrick Mahomes doing what Joe Burrow did last year. Last year, there was a lot of issues with this team. They had problems in the backfield at times. Everyone in the receiving corps was hurt or off the field at times too. So the offense was very, they played to keep it close and let Mahomes do something great in the fourth quarter, and he normally did. We're hearing some reports now that they're going to look to get back to where they were a couple of years ago. More downfield, more explosiveness. They obviously brought in Marquise Brown to help out that last year. He missed almost the whole season. Are you buying this talk that they're going to open things up a little bit more with the Chiefs? And what are your general thoughts on Patrick Mahomes, who is not in that elite quarterback grouping anymore, at least in terms of the fantasy outlook?
Last year I viewed this offense as an offense that attacked you basically through 1,000 paper cuts. They would dink and dunk their way, they'd control the ball, and they wouldn't make mistakes, which was really big in order for them to win all these late one-score games where it just seemingly came down to the fourth quarter, and Mahomes had the gusto to win those final fourth quarter matchups. They've got great weapons to bring back that explosiveness, but I think it really starts in the offensive line, where last year the left tackle was an absolute mess. They had a rotation there of sorts, but both guys are basically turnstiles. Right tackle, false starts galore with Juan Taylor, who I don't know how he has his job. It's the most frustrating thing watching a Chiefs game.
Almost every play they could have called a penalty on him.
Every play.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Then we throw in the traded away left guard Tooney. So there's some offensive line shakeup this year. They did spend a round 1 capital on, I think it was Josh Simmons, for the Ohio State guy, who's expected to maybe be a pup candidate that comes back early in the year. We need to figure out some injury updates on that situation. But they spent the round 1 capital at left tackle, a position of need. I think this should help this offensive line, give Mahomes enough time to make those deep reads, not be forced to get rid of the ball quickly, where last year, there was a stat, I was trying to look it up before this show, where I think he allowed the quickest time to pressure on the left side of the line among all quarterbacks because of how poor that left tackle position was. And just getting an upgrade there is going to do, I think, multitudes of service here in terms of advancing this team and letting them throw deep. You mentioned Marquise Brown. His return to a healthy season should be huge for this offense. He kept doing these 1-year deals with Kansas City, hoping to showcase that. And I think this is the year we finally gets a chance to do it. Xavier Worthy, 4.21 speed. We saw a lot of east-west stuff last year. This is the year possibly where we get to see him finally win more in the vertical game, given that speed. Jalen Royals, a round 4 pick they grabbed. tied Matthew Golden for the fastest 10-yard split in this year's 40-yard dash at the NFL Combine. He led the FBS in gains of 50-plus yards over the last 2 years combined. So they've got vertical playmakers here. We just need this offensive line to give them time. So I'm hoping we get past this death of 1,000 paper cuts offense and we get some more explosiveness, back to the Tyreek Hill throwbacks where we got to see some, honestly, very fun and exciting Chiefs offenses.
Tyler Beaker of FG. I've mentioned it previously. You mentioned it earlier today. The 480-plus touches last season of Saquon Barkley, which should cause more concern, I think, than it is. A lot of people don't even consider it. Whether it breaks down this year or not, you should consider it. We're getting a reporting that is suggestive that the offense can be a little bit different this year. They've got a new coordinator in Kevin Patillo, and apparently it's going to be a little bit more even. They were obviously extremely run-heavy. They might have been the most run-heavy team in football last year, right? We've heard players on the team say that, hey, we like this new offense. Looks like they're going to pass a little bit more. How do you read these reports that suggest that? Is that your anticipation? And how does that shift things, if anything, in your outlook for both the passing attack and for Saquon Barkley in particular?
If I'm not mistaken, it was a 15-2 record for the Eagles in the regular season where they just ran roughshod against everybody. They had positive game scripts. I think there's like a stat where over the back half of the year, like weeks 9 through 18, Jalen Hurts had 8 total pass attempts when the team was trailing in the second half of games. They just never threw. They never had to. They were constantly playing with leads, and they were doing well. They had a great defense. This defense, though, I mean, whenever you win a Super Bowl, everyone wants to get paid. They were able to bring back some players. Some players had to leave. I think there's a chance that this defense takes a step backwards in 2025. Maybe they're unable to lean on the run and Saquon as heavily as they did last year, which could lead to more pass dropbacks by Jalen Hurts, who I think it was 24-something pass attempts per game, 32nd in the league. Very low rate. Barkley, it's just a tough thing for a player to come back after that much volume and repeat. So I understand the idea of what this new offensive coordinator wants to implement. We'll see if it actually happens when push comes to shove and they see what Saquon does relative to the field, because Saquon's just an otherworldly talent. The problem is, I don't know if his body will be able to sustain it. We've seen some injuries for Saquon in the past. He's still an explosive back whenever given the opportunities, but I wouldn't be shocked to see the volume drop back a little bit, mainly more instead of like preservative-wise, game script-wise, where the Eagles were probably forced to pass a bit more than they had in the years past relative to 2024. That's where I think we could see the bigger shift. But Barkley, to me, he's a dangerous dice roll. The upside is clearly a 2,000-yard rusher with a lot of touchdown equity tied to him as well. But there's a lot of risk there. I mean, every player that's reached 450-plus touches over the past 20, 25 years, none of them has played more than 8 or so games. They've all saw drastic decreases in fantasy point per game outputs. So I'm kind of bearish on Barkley repeating. He's not a player I'm super excited to draft. And I talked about going after your players at the start of this show. Barkley isn't one that I'm excited to click this year.
A player that no one seems excited to click to look at his ADP is Dallas Goedert, who's obviously a tight end too. He's basically barely inside the top 20. Like, he's not even a tight end that always gets drafted in traditional redraft leagues. He loves Kevin Patillo, who is going to throw him the football more. At least that's what he hopes. Dallas Goedert, it's like Dallas Goedert, I think, also has had the issue of staying on the field too. There's been injuries here. You mentioned the lack of passing, especially in the second half of games last year. A lot of games where he's getting 4 targets. That obviously doesn't feed the Bulldog. Can Goedert emerge? Can he catch 5 for 55 a week? Can he be more than what his ADP suggests, or is it another guy that you're just not that interested in?
Another guy I'm not that interested in. Frankly, this offense is really boiled down to just there's 3 heavy hitters with Brown, Devonta Smith, and Saquon Barkley. You can add Jalen Hurts there. We could call it the big 4. But the target share between A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith combined was 56%. They're one of just a few handful of combo receivers that cleared that 50% mark. When we look at like first read rate in terms of the first read design plays, against single high, A.J. Brown led the league. Against 2 high, these are the safeties I'm referring here, Devonta Smith was wide receiver 2. So it was basically let Jalen Hurts diagnose what kind of coverage he's looking at and throw to one or the other. We saw a lot of slot work from Devonta Smith last year relative to seasons prior. I think that's here to stay. And because of it, it kind of really negates the tight end drag where Dallas Goedert had really made his money in years past and seasons prior. I just really believe this offense is going to continue to flow through these 2 guys, and it's not going to leave much meat on the bone for a wide receiver 3 or a tight end. It's just Goedert, to me, he's in that deep deep group of like tight end, I don't know, 8 through 20, where they're all flyers on a given week. We know the variance that comes with that and starts at formats.
Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com. Liam Cohen's with the Jaguars. We talked a lot about Trevor Lawrence. Talked a lot about the backfield. We talked a lot about the addition of Hunter. Let's talk a little bit about the tight end there. We spent a lot of time talking about the guy that used to be there, Evan Ingram, now that he's with Denver. Brenton Strange is getting some props from his coach, and that's not surprising. Coaches give props to players all the time, even when they cut him a week later. Brenton Strange, not somebody that anyone's really talking about other than dynasty or keeper leagues. You know, his ADP says don't even draft me. His ADP is barely inside the top 25. Could he be one of these guys that emerges in 2025?
Yeah, he's interesting for sure. I think we could, speaking of Evan Ingram, he missed 8 games last year. We saw in that span, Brenton Strange averaged basically 5.0 targets per game, 14.6 target share. Those games were largely with Mac Jones under center. So right. I do want to preface that by saying that he had one singular spike week over that span, but largely a modest producer. I do think it makes sense for Brenton Strange to get these hype blurbs coming out because he is an athletic guy. He's a round 2 draft pick from 2023. He's got a 9.06 RAS, relative athletic score. That's out of 10. I reference that a lot on these shows. But Strange to me, I feel like we saw Evan Ingram really hit his ceiling because of volume. And I don't view Strange in that same caliber of a target earner in terms of a guy they want to center the offense around, especially after spending and trading up for Travis Hunter as a number 2 overall selection. So Evan Ingram, he got by via volume. I don't expect that to be the case with Strange here. So I think he's right in that Goedert grouping of boom bust tight end 2s, where you take him in best ball as your tight end 2 selection. Maybe you grab him in FFPC formats for a sporadic flex, given the 1.5 PPR format there. But that's all the positives I have for Strange.
Tyler, we get reports. We're getting them all the time here. We had a report the other day of The Athletic, I think, that Raheem Mostert was going to be the 3rd down back of the Raiders. So there's reporting all over the place, and I think a lot of it's just beat writers clickbaiting. I don't know. We get a report from Jenna Lane of ESPN that Emeka Egbuka is going to be really involved in this offense. And I think, hey, man, makes sense. You know, Evans is getting older. Godwin's, coming back from an injury, all that kind of stuff. What are your expectations for Egbuka? I know that we all love him in the dynasty in the future and all that, but can he be a usable piece this season if those other 2 guys are healthy? Is he only a usable piece in fantasy this year if one of the 2 guys is out? We got things changing with this offense too. A new OC obviously there. What are your thoughts on Egbuka in 2025?
It's funny you talk about beat reporters because I saw a comment yesterday or the day before about a beat reporter starting his tweet with, "I'm taking my shot here." You're not supposed to be taking your shots. You're supposed to be reporting what you're saying. We don't need your hot takes, brother. We need your information, stats, data. We don't need your hot takes. So I wanted to get that off my chest because that was something that had irked me for the last 48 hours. But Jenna's a national beat. She's a real highly regarded beat in terms of what she offers. But she's also going to see what she sees on the field. Godwin's still returning from injury. He's not practicing out there. So it's like Egbuka that's out there getting a lot of those reps, a lot of those opportunities right now. He's doing great with it because he's a phenomenal talent. He left Ohio State as the reception leader there. And when you think about all the wideouts that have gone through there, Egbuka, that's notable. So I think he's a guy that has both inside, outside versatility. We saw some good past years from him. Let me rephrase it. We saw some good production from him, aligning both on the perimeter and in the slot. So to me, he's kind of a chess piece where you can put him wherever the Bucs need him. Godwin returning from injury. Mike Evans, no stranger to hamstring injuries himself, and he's also getting older. So I think there's a chance that we see Egbuka really emerge here. He's a guy, I think he's right around pick 100 or so in ADP right now, depending on your draft site. Wide receiver 5 status. But he's a guy that I really am comfortable investing in, given that the pass game coordinator has moved to OC. So last year's pass-heavy tendencies from the Bucs, top 5 in pass rate over expectation, should carry over, given that the guys are largely intact here. The offensive line remains intact. The pass catchers just get the boost here with Egbuka. I'm really bullish on this guy. I think he's a guy that weeks, 9 through 18, he could be a second half season winner for fantasy squads and an every week starter.
Tyler Beaker, you can find more of his information at fantasyguru.com. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page. Send a note to support at fantasyguru.com. While you're watching this show live on the various sources, you can leave comments, ask questions, and we see one here from Jim. So let's go to that, Tyler. kind of been debating a rebuild in a dynasty league here. Was offered C.J. Stroud, Jalen Warren, and Mr. Burden, and a 2026 first-round pick for Waddle and Hurts. What do you think? So we're one side, we're getting in a rebuild. We're getting a bunch of players. Stroud at quarterback, so it's Stroud for Hurts. Warren, Burden, and a pick for Waddle. Interesting. What do you think?
I don't dislike it at all. I think this is a spot where I think in many single QB or superflex formats, the quarterback position is overly valued, where Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren.
Okay.
I'm even more excited about that than Jalen Warren. Yeah, I was going to already side with the package. Give me Tyler Warren, Burden, the 2026 first, and Stroud for Waddle and Hurts. Waddle coming off his worst year. I'm not sure if that was due to injury, poor quarterback play, poor offensive line play, poor play scheme by Mike McDaniel. It's just a disastrous 2024 season for the Dolphins. They just can't wait to put it behind them. Right. Waddle, he's tough because we've seen productivity from him his first 3-4 years in the league. Huge PPR asset right at the gate. And then we saw him not just be that short yardage guy, but also the vertical guy. So he can win in both facets. So I think he's a tough sell, but you're getting back such a great return here. And you cover all your bases, basically QB, wide receiver, tight end, and then the mystery box of your 2026 first. I like this deal quite a bit.
Yeah. And first names matter. Don't worry about it, Jim. First names help. 2026 first round pick. I think, like you said, the mystery box. I might use that term because people do this all the time, and people love trading picks. And I say it all the time. A pick, it means nothing. First round pick, okay, yeah. Second, third, fourth. We don't know who you're going to pick. You don't know who's going to be available. You don't know when in the draft. Is it going to be 101? Is it going to be 112? Like, it's such a random thing. In this case, it's a sweetener. And it's a first-round pick, so I think it's a great addition there. Are you worried about Warren this year?
For sure.
Warren this year because of the potential quarterback up and down, and because of tight ends traditionally, and because of the fact that the Colts haven't exactly been bunko good at passing the football the last couple of years.
Yeah, they talked about needing a middle of the field presence, and I think Warren fits that to a T. They've really just been trying to swing and miss on some like round 2, round 3 picks at the tight end position. Some super athletic guys have come through. They just haven't really panned out, unfortunately. But I think Warren's a guy where you're really just waiting for the next quarterback to come through. But I think he's a great investment. We saw a lot of production over at Penn State where he basically scored the most yards from scrimmage ever recorded by a tight end in Power 5 conference history. Not much more I need to say after that sentence. Like, this dude's an absolute animal. I really, really like him. I think he's a guy that, with Daniel Jones starting, which looks like the case right now, we could feel a lot more rosier in terms of the outlook for 2025 than we were with Anthony Richardson under center. And then the 2026 first-round pick, this is just in general. I just want to give this advice. I would always view rookie draft picks through this lens. Round 1 picks have about a 50% chance of becoming fantasy contributors. Round 2 picks about a 25%. Round 3 and beyond, sub 10. That's how I like to view these guys. So when you're evaluating it, use it through that outlook, and I think you can properly weigh whether the risk is worth the reward when you're adding these into your trades.
Tyler Beaker of FG. Tyler, I don't know if you have your whiteboard today. I don't see it behind you there, but do you have anything coming up here? What do the folks have to look forward to from you over at FG?
I was actually just starting a Scott Fishbowl study right now, diving into the scoring format for this upcoming year.
I need that too, so do a good job. Yes.
We'll do. Every year, the scoring format changes for that, which makes it really fun because, I don't know, I've been drafting since basically March, ever since the Super Bowl ended, and the scoring formats largely stay the same across every best ball draft and platform. There's some minor tweaks and things here, but this is the league of all leagues to know your rules. I've done a great job these last few years in terms of being a high-scoring squad because I've adjusted my strategy where I'm not usually a running back heavy player, but I will adjust whenever I'm getting point per carry, and those boosts impact the way we should be drafting. So be cognizant of all your rules, the settings, your league start sits in terms of how deep you guys go. Something we talk about all the time at Fantasy Guru, know your league rules, and I think Scott Fishbowl is the best example of it as it changes every single year.
Yeah, this year, I think I remember too, like, don't tight ends get like 3 points a catch now?
I have yet to actually go through it. I only just started the template.
Like 1 point PPR, and then they get the bonus point for PPR, and then it's a point for a target. I think they get 3 points a target. So Tyler will break that all down, have that article out for us over at fantasyguru.com that I will be voraciously reading myself when it comes out. Tyler, we appreciate you coming on the show every Thursday. Love having you have that spot every single week at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. Look forward to continuing that from now throughout the rest of the year if it works schedule-wise for you. And thanks for your time today, and we'll talk to you in a week.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, Ray.
You got it. Tomorrow is Russell Clay's day, so he'll be with us at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. We'll be back here at 12 o'clock East Coast time, just like we are every day, Monday through Friday. For Tyler Beaker, I'm Ray Flowers. This has been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by the one and only fantasyguru.com.